All right. So what's the most obvious thing you want to say about what you saw this past Saturday?
Well, excuse me, because I have so much more experience of watching Alabama football to draw on, I want to go back to when a kid played at Mississippi Southern, as we called him back then. He was quarterback, and his name was Brett Favre. I don't know whatever became of him, but when he came rolling into Legion Field that Saturday afternoon, we'd never heard of him, and he completed about 1,000 passes for maybe 1,000,000 yards. But there was never a moment in the entire ball game where we thought we were going to lose it. It was just, basically we were playing a prevent defense and letting them run down the field. And every time they didn't score, we'd score. And I really thought a lot about that game Saturday because, Mississippi State took the ball. They were obviously tricking us because we were set up for their passing attack, and they kept running the ball, and they moved it, and they moved it, and they moved it, and then it didn't score. We went down and scored. Then they moved it and moved it and moved it, and went for it on fourth down and didn't score. We went down and scored. Then the third time, they, like a stupid heads, went for it on fourth and about a foot on their own 29-yard line. And I think that was the point. There was a point in the ball game early where I realized that they had really given up. They had been running the ball and getting some success early, but we had evidently made adjustments by then because there was a particular series where they had third and less than a yard, and they went for it on third and went for it on fourth, and in both cases they threw the football. And when that happened, I said, okay, we got their run shit figured out. They're not going to outscore us, no matter how flaccid we play. So we're not going to lose this game. And that was kind of my attitude the whole game. I didn't think we played great other than Bryce Young. He was fucking great. And the LSU transfer, number 7, the cornerback, he was great. But it was very typical of me, for me, of games right before we get a break. Through the court. See, everybody talks every year if we lose a ball game.
See, to me, I thought it was more the hangover loss.
Well, I'm no psychologist or football expert, either one, but it could be either one of those. But
well, and I've not even considered the aspect of, we got next week off.
See, I think that's big.
Well, yeah, that plays into it.
I think it plays into it a lot, and I think there's a lot of, it's been a
vacationitis.
Well, exactly, and it's been a long time since I was 19 years old, so I really don't try to think like college football players do. But
right,
when you think about when you were young and what motivated you and what drove you and the things that were important to you, when school was almost coming out or when it was time for the Christmas holidays or spring break or whatever it was, your attitude was always, let's just get through this week. Let's don't do anything. And I saw the same thing happen when I worked with Bell South, especially after I no longer had a crew to manage and was in the staff office in Birmingham. Every year that I was there, about the Wednesday or Thursday before the week of Thanksgiving, not before Thanksgiving Day, but before that full week, that whole place basically shut down emotionally and mentally. And it was like, right. We're going to tread water for 2 months and then start back at the first of the year. And you came into work every day. You had some stuff to do. You made some phone calls. You did some little, mealy mouth shit, but you never actually started anything or got anything going or solved any problems unless there were, major things that popped up that had to be done that day. Everything was just kind of like I said, treading water to get through to the end of the year. And then on January 2nd or 3rd, whenever you came back to work, then, hey, let's get after this shit. And this, not just this year, but for several years, I noticed, especially when we started to the point where we had 2 or 3 games. We had Tennessee and Mississippi State, and usually Ole Miss and A&M. All those 4 right there together. If we win all them, then we get a week off, and then we start out with LSU. And since we've been on that thing, it's really been noticeable to me that that's kind of the way we do. We get through. That's getting through the main part of the season. From here on out, we're on our championship drive. We're basically in
the rhythm
now. We got to beat LSU. They looked like a completely different team Saturday than they did.
They looked like champions, didn't they?
They really did. I don't know that they're that good. Mississippi is never had a great defense. They've never been what you would consider. Lane Kiffin does not coach them to be manly. He coaches them to trick the other team,
right?
To outscore and do all that.
Yeah.
That
Get
stuff.
your popcorn ready.
I know. I don't mean that as a criticism, because
I know it's just Lane.
But when you're like that and you line up against somebody that's going to whip your ass on every play, about the middle of the 3rd quarter, it's like those 2 boxers where one's giving all like in Rocky, when at some point the other guy starts bringing his hands down because he's tired of getting hit in the ribs and they're really hurting. And, it's kind of the same principle. You just and then on top of that, being undefeated and being ranked in single digits, you're not ready. Alabama,
it wears on you.
Well, Alabama sees it every year. But a lot of other teams,
they've always got the crosshairs.
I'm looking for some shit out of Tennessee in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think they play Kentucky this coming week, but
they still got a long season.
They really do. I mean,
they're very talented.
Yet they haven't played Florida yet.
I think they're very good. I think they're well coached, but they still got a lot of football to play.
Yeah, and it gets every week gets a little tougher because you go play and you beat Alabama and you think, man, we did.
Well, and for some reason the collars on your shirt get a little bit tighter, and it gets harder to breathe.
It's my favorite adage in football, and people probably get tired of hearing me say it, but at some point you quit trying to win the game and you start trying to not lose the game.
Right.
And Alabama did that against Tennessee. And they admitted it in so many words. I think I almost sent you guys a quote from Saban in one of his comments over the weekend, last weekend, where he basically said that. And,
So what'd you think about the last touchdown?
Well, the first thing I thought about it was that pass interference call was one of the same things we keep seeing. And I saw something, let me interrupt that to say, there was something, I realized that Yahoo is basically clickbait for the most part these days. They do put some legitimate news stories out there, but everything out there is designed to get clicks.
They're all the same.
I know, but there was something where they were talking about either Yahoo or it may have been on Google, where they have, now when you go to Google, instead of just having the open thing to search for it, they have stories under it. And it was a story about whether the Alabama-Tennessee game was going to change the way officials operated toward pass interference. And they were talking specifically in this article, and I haven't seen it anywhere else. They were talking specifically about the fact that when you underthrow the football intentionally, then if both guys are trying to come back for the ball, it's not pass interference. If they're just fighting for the ball, it shouldn't be pass interference. And it's in effect an uncatchable ball, and you're both trying to get back to it. That's what they're saying in the article. I don't know how much validity there is to that, but I thought, for the last several years, we've heard Gary Danielson and lots of other guys say that when you're covering somebody like Alabama does, you can put your hand on the guy's back as long as you don't turn him.
Right.
And I saw it in a pro game yesterday. I don't remember the game, but there was a play where the color commentator said, "Oh, that wasn't pass interference," and then they showed it, and the guy had his hand down here and grabbed him, almost touched his dick, but he was down there about hip level and just spun him around. He said, "Oh, I didn't see that," and then it was obvious it was pass interference.
Right. You didn't see the receiver do a pirouette.
Yeah, and but the years ago, if you touched one, I remember in an Alabama and Auburn game 40 years ago, probably, that Auburn won. It was during Pat Dye's reign, and an Alabama defensive back and an Auburn receiver were running to the football. It was an underthrown football, and both of them were trying to get to the football. The Alabama guy got there, caught the ball, and the Auburn guy hit him, and they called pass interference on the Alabama guy. And Auburn ended up winning the ball game because of that. It was a drive to win the game. It may have been the game where Bo went over the top, but it was one of those really close Auburn games back in that era. And I remember waiting, trying to get home so I could see that play, because I thought our guy got there first, and he did, but it didn't matter, But pass interference, because of the offenses they run now, has changed a lot and morphed into something different. But the way it's been called the last few years is, you can do this with one hand and block the ball coming in, and you can actually touch the guy for just basically for leverage. You can put your hand on his back as long as you don't turn him. And I've seen at least 3 this year called on Alabama. And I think that's what happened Saturday, because Saban went crazy on that play. He's ahead 30-0, and he went crazy when they called it. So, first of all, I don't think there's a whole lot of motivation. I know everybody wants to talks, goes through the motions. Yeah, we want to get the shutout. We're trying really hard. But when you're ahead 30-0 and there's less than a minute to go in the game, your concentration is not exactly the same as if it's 30-28 and there's a minute to go in the ball game. So, that I don't have a problem with Alabama giving up the touchdown. I know they were pissed about it. I know anytime you can get a shutout, you want to get it. And I realize that Mississippi State hadn't scored in Tuscaloosa since 2014. But all that's meaningless to me. I thought maybe the most interesting thing of the game to me, and I didn't really think about it until Sunday. I saw a quote by Mike Leach where he said that his players were afraid of that big red script A. And until they got over that, they wouldn't be able to win anymore. They couldn't beat Alabama because of the uniform base. And that's a lot
Was
of
it the script A or the jersey?
Well, he said both.
I think I just heard that on ESPN.
Well,
but yeah, I know what you're talking about, and that was I don't know about that.
I thought that Leach played scared as much as anybody. I thought when you're going for it on 4th down, you're down 2 touchdowns in the first half, and you're going for it on 4th down on your own 29-yard line. That's pretty much insane.
Yeah, but he was going for it on 4th down from early on, and I'm looking at it going, what are you doing? Wait a minute, kick a field goal.
Well, if
you don't have to go for it. What are you doing?
Well, I agree with that. And one of the things, you saw when they did try to kick a field goal, they hit the upright, so they don't have a really good kicker. But if you'll go back and look at the same thing.
Yeah, but still, it's.
I'm with you. They say it's in their DNA. They think they got to do it. And as far as I'm concerned, Leach may have been of the opinion that they couldn't win. It didn't matter what they did because they weren't going to win anyway. And so he could go for it on 4th down every play and maybe fluke something out. But, I know that Lane Kiffin has that same reputation of going for it on 4th down. And
well, yeah, the analytics.
Several times in the last 2 or 3 years where they had a 4th and less than a yard, at the middle of the field or something like that, he either punted or went for a field goal rather than going for it. Because, Alabama's really good. They're really well coached on defense. They know what they're doing. And so, the odds change a lot. You can look at analytics all the time. If the analytics say that you should, you should be successful on a fourth down play 83% of the time, if you factor in the fact that you're playing against Alabama, that all of a sudden, I saw a stat actually today, they were talking about it. It brings that they're leading the country in stopping fourth down plays, and the rate against them is like 38%. So, if you're early in a ball game and you got less than a 50-50 chance of making that happen, and you're on your own 29-yard line, that's just stupid. So. But I was happy with the way they played. I didn't think they were great. Like I said, other than Bryce Young, he's still, his receivers are just not. And really, when you think about it, I think it's like we always do. We're expecting too much from them. I mean, Jason Williams is. I know he's hurt, but he's in the pros. Jalen Waddle, gained 1,000 yards yesterday receiving. Jerry Jeudy gained about 100. All these guys are in the damn pros, and they started. Julio Jones is still playing.
Right.
Amari Cooper is still playing. All these guys are former receivers that played, in combinations of each other. Deontay Smith, won a Heisman. He's got a trophy. He's got a commercial talking about it. He catches everything, so all these guys are not there anymore, and we've got some good receivers, but we don't appear to have anybody that's become great yet. And then if you throw in the fact that Bryce Young hadn't practiced in 2 weeks, then they haven't had a chance to work on it. So I expect him to take the next week and rest his shoulder completely, and then the following week start working really hard. And I think some of the new receivers will come in there, and I think they'll handle LSU pretty easily. I don't think it'll be easy early, but I really deep down inside don't think that Brian Kelly's ready for the SEC, and he's got a team. It's always a good thing for you when the team you're about to play has a really big game against somebody, has a great upset, and they think, well, hell, that was easy. They were number 7. We're playing number 6 next time. It'll be just like that. But, so. Yeah,
it's typically the way it is. All right. We'll find out in 2 weeks.
I know. Well, I guess my overall attitude is it's like I always want it to be. It still hurts when they lose, and I'm still disappointed when I think they're going to do something and they don't. But, they have a great defense when they pay attention, and it looks like they're starting to gel their defense together. I mean, keep in mind that they played Saturday without their 2 best defensive interior linemen, Dale, and then the big freshman that used to weigh 489 pounds or something. And he lost 100 pounds, and now he's only like 380. Both of those guys did not play Saturday. And that's the meat of their run defense. Those guys are in the middle, and it allows the other guys to rush the passer and put pressure on the passer from there. And